Good evening. Thanks for having me up. I appreciate it.
Good evening.
For the TikTok purposes, I'm 41 years old.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
Uh,
So I wanted to very quickly piggyback off what that guy was saying. So this is going to be inside the executive order. You can find it yourself, or I can link it to you. Perhaps it's in section 2 under B subsection A. Of this section shall apply only to persons who are born within the United States after 30 days from the date of this order. So he was actually right. It will not, so it does not retroactively apply. The executive order only applies forward by the executive order. Again, B subsection A of this section shall apply only to persons who are born within the United States after 30 days from the date of the order. He was correct.
okay, and what would what would stop him from changing it later?
Well, I mean, what's to stop anybody from doing anything? I'm just pointing out that the executive order itself is, as he stated, would not apply retroactively. It can't actually apply retroactively via the executive. Hang on. That was what was in dispute. He was correct. I just want to see if you'll acknowledge he was correct.
No, what the original conversation was about him attacking people with birthright citizenship.
Yeah, but I mean, but
that was the initial conversation.
Yeah, but what you did do was you said, no, this is a claim. You haven't made the claim. And you said it's not factual that he can't revoke citizenship. And it is, in fact, factual via the executive order, which is exactly what he said.
And what has kept him from revoking citizenship from people who already had United States citizenship?
The executive order itself in section B, subsection A.
Proven false.
No, I literally am. I'm going to prove it to you right now.
He's already deported people with United States citizenship.
Who is he deported with United States citizenship? Unless it's an accident. Like, you do realize accidents will happen. Like, even under Joe Biden, I'm sure there was people who were deported.
It's pretty ridiculous when you say that, oh, he's only going to attack people with birthright citizenship after 30 days, but not actually like take into consequence that he's already deporting people with birthright citizenship.
Wait. No. That's not the claim. This wasn't the claim that was being made. You really are throwing out a red herring here. The claim you made was that this does retroactively apply. It does not retroactively apply to revoke citizenship, which is exactly what that gentleman told you. And I have it right here. You can find this from the White House Gov itself. This is Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship, Executive Order. And you can find this heading.
And no, a red herring is what he did. The original conversation was he's attacking people with birthright citizenship.
Okay, if you can make a single concession here, I'll move the conversation there. And it doesn't even hurt your position to just say, "Hey, look, I was incorrect."
So it says it here. No, I read it here, but again, he's attacking people with U.S. citizenship.
Okay, but can we just make a simple concession to move the conversation forward that he indeed does not have the executive order?
Did I not just do that?
Okay, well then fair enough, right? So we agree the executive order does not retroactively go after people. Now, when it comes to the amendment itself, you would agree the Constitution is a living document, which is up to interpretation, correct?
Not by the president.
Well, I think yes, by all branches of government, and unless challenged, right? You can challenge these things in the courts.
Not by the president.
Well,
it's never been that.
The president's not an interpreter.
Not ever.
Okay, well then, how does the president know what laws he can do or not do?
He can't make laws.
No. Which law? Well, he can enforce all laws. He's the chief law enforcement agent.
No, that's also false.
No, that's definitely not false. Look it up yourself if you think I'm wrong. He's in charge of enforcing the laws of the United States, sir.
What are the 3 branches of government?
The executive, the judicial. So, can you tell me which one of hang on, real quick. Which one of those out of the ones I just, out of the executive branch enforces the laws of the United States?
Which branch does the president fall under?
He's the executive.
Right.
And the executive enforces the laws of the United States.
Okay, so again.
Do you agree that the executive enforces the laws of the United States?
Does the president have executive action in actually upholding the law?
Yes.
No.
Yes, he does. He has an attorney general he puts in place, but he literally can enforce the law. Yes, yes.
So not the president.
The president himself can sign executive orders enforcing law. Yes.
You just conceded that it's the attorney general.
No, the president himself is the commander in chief of the United States Armed Forces. What are you talking about?
So if the president decides to write an unconstitutional executive order, that gives him the right to do so.
Yeah, you could. So here,
because he can enforce the law.
Okay, listen. By the way, there's a precedent for this, but yeah, but hang on. I'm trying to answer your question, dude. You can't shotgun them, otherwise it's not fair for either of us. So let me answer the question. The executive's job is actually, yes, to enforce the laws of the United States. It's a primary job, in fact, primary. So the thing is like, yes, he is in charge of the FBI. He's in charge of the intelligentsia agencies. He's in charge of all of this. And he's also in charge of the United States military. Hang on. Wait a second. The Supreme Court, their job is to interpret the Constitution and see if laws fit the Constitution to determine if they're constitutional or not constitutional.
So per the Constitution, Article 2, Section 3, the Constitution provides that the president shall take care that laws are being faithfully executed. That does not mean he himself. Okay,
bro. I'll just give you an easy summary. You can just ask this question into Google yourself. Yes, the executive branch of the United States government enforces laws. The executive branch includes the president, vice president, cabinet, other agencies. The president signs legislation into law, vetoes bills.
Arguing against the Constitution.
Bro.
This is not me.
Okay, well then, what is the president's job then, dude? What do you think his job is?
To faithfully take care that the laws are being executed.
Oh, so his job is to execute the laws, like I just said.
No, that's not what you said.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed.
Yes, so they're enforced correctly. The laws are enforced correctly.
The duty potentially indicates at least 5 categories of executive power. Powers of the Constitution confers directly on the president by opening and seceding clauses, Article 2.
Yes.
Powers of Congress.
Those are all the powers that allow him to enforce the laws of the land, sir.
You're not listening.
Tell me how I'm wrong.
You're not listening.
So which branch do you think is in charge of executing the laws of the United States and is in charge of the ultimate enforcement arm, since they're in charge of the United States military, sir?
You're not listening.
I'm listening. Not only am I listening, I'm giving you a counter argument.
You've pivoted
to what
from the beginning.
To what? I told you that the president's job is to enforce law.
I told you that the original argument was that Trump's executive order is attacking people.
Yeah, but then you said that the president doesn't enforce and is not the executor of law, and then you were completely wrong about that. Can you just concede on that?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, well then whose job is it in the government?
So who actually enforces the law? Is it the president or is it judges?
As far as enforcement goes,
is that why we have 3 branches of government or not?
Yeah, well, okay. The judicial branch, what they're doing is the
executive branch.
Yeah, hang on, bro.
Is to enforce.
Yes, it's to enforce the law. Yes,
but the judicial branch
interprets.
Is also a check.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with that. So now we're making some progress. I totally agree that they're a check to that, but the president's also a check to the judicial branch. The judiciary does not have unilateral control over the laws of the United States. The president definitely can be an They don't. They don't. No. Then what? Then who checks them? If it's checks and balances, then who checks the judiciary? Who's checking them?
You just said that the Supreme Court interprets the law. So if you're telling me that the president executes an unconstitutional law, that the Supreme Court has no right to overturn that.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm explaining. No, I'm not. I'm explaining to you that listen, I'm telling you right now, there's a check for the Supreme Court, right? Who's that?
No one.
No one's the check. So no one's a check for the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is the unilateral governing body of the United States. Then is that right?
In interpreting the law.
Yes. No, that's not what you said. Who checks the Supreme Court? Who checks them?
If a law is challenged by this and it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court deems it unconstitutional, who's above the Supreme Court?
So if the Supreme Court says that we can human children. That's the law.
So when was that said?
That's my question.
No.
Can somebody challenge that to somebody else other than the Supreme Court?
So again, answer the question.
What?
If the Supreme Court deems a law unconstitutional, who's above the Supreme Court?
Yeah, so there could be checks and balances to this.
That's that you didn't answer.
Yeah, yes. So the executive can disagree. Listen, the executive. I'm answering it. You have to stop talking, though, bro.
You didn't.
Do you want me to or not?
If you actually can.
Yeah. Yes, the president can definitely disagree with the Supreme Court's decisions and has. Would you like me to give you multiple examples in history where this has happened?
I would love.
Okay.
Love that.
So the Supreme Court. I'll pull up the exact case, actually. If you just give me 2 seconds so that I can pull it up. Just hang tight. I'll pull it up. Okay, so Andrew Jackson was one such who ignored the Supreme Court. And he ignored the court. Hang on. Would you stop, bro, so that I can at least cite it for you?
Did he do that lawfully?
Yes, he did it lawfully. Yes.
Answer that.
He ignored the courts. He ignored the court's rulings. He did what he wanted. Dude, how can I answer you if you keep muting me or you interrupt me when I'm answering the question?
Because you're bringing up arguments.
What's the argument?
He broke the law. Didn't he?
No. In fact, he did not break the law. Says who?
Yes, he did.
Says who? You?
Ignoring ruling by the Supreme Court.
What if they make an unjust law, dude? How do you challenge an unjust law by the Supreme Court, dude? How?
You have to challenge it again.
From the same court who made it to begin with?
That's the way our...
What are you talking about? What? You don't honestly believe that, do you? You don't really believe that, do you?
Why aren't you answering the question?
Okay, yes, hang on, yes, the Supreme Court can be checked by the other branches of government. Yes.
So which order did Andrew Jackson, the genocider, refuse to listen to?
Yeah, I just started to read it to you. Would you like for me to tell you again?
Well, continue.
Yeah, so there was an order which was handed down about what he could do with the Cherokee, and he completely ignored it and did what he wanted.
Unlawfully.
Okay, what made it unlawful?
The genocide.
No, wait, what? What are you talking about? So then if the Supreme Court, answer me this. If that's the case, if the Supreme Court, hang on, bro, listen. If the Supreme Court dude.
What was the actual Supreme Court?
Why can't I ask you a single question? If it is the case that the Supreme Court rules, dude, hang on real quick. If the Supreme Court, I just read it to you, dude.
No, you didn't.
Oh my God.
Supreme Court decision.
Okay, hang on. I'll pull it back up, even though I literally just read it to you and you just didn't listen.
No, you blathered on about what the decision was.
Yes, you mean I was reading you the decision?
No, you didn't actually read the case. What was the case?
The case was Worcester versus Georgia, 1832. It established that the Cherokee Nation was independent. And then Jackson went ahead and did the whole Trail of Cheers thing.
So it was unlawful.
No, what made it unlawful?
The Supreme Court said that the Cherokee Nation was an independent nation, and he violated it. That was unlawful.
Yeah, what makes that unlawful?
The violation of the Supreme Court order. What made it lawful? So
if the Supreme Court then had decided that it was okay to use the G word against all of the natives, you would consider that to be lawful and the president to not be lawful. Stop. Just let me ask the question, please. I just answered your question. Please answer my question. If the Supreme Court, if this had gone in reverse and the president ignored the Supreme Court, if they told him not to do a J side, would you then say, or if they told him to do the J side, would you then say the Supreme Court was acting lawfully?
Is that what happened?
Now, can you answer my question?
Is that what happened?
Can you answer my question?
No, I don't do hypotheticals.
So how do I test your logic?
with actual case law.
What are you dude? Okay,
If you can argue in reality, then what are you doing here?
I'm telling you over and over again that yes, the Supreme Court's rulings change because you have interpreters of law, and also that they are not the final word or final arbiter. They have checks against them as well, which includes ignoring their laws and ignoring their interpretations. That would be a check, yeah?
Which is unlawful.
So they can't make, so the Supreme Court can make no unlawful law. They can interpret no law unlawfully.
When did I say that?
So I don't understand. Well, I don't understand. So the Supreme Court is the ultimate ruling of the land.
That's literally their position.
So is that your position?
Yeah, so Andrew Jackson's refusal to enforce the Supreme Court decision, Worcester versus, was unlawful because the United States Constitution, the executive branch, is required to uphold the rulings of the judicial branch. The Constitution.
Now you ready? Yeah, you ready to get destroyed? You ready to get destroyed now? If 2/3 of Congress says no, it's over, right?
Yeah. So you're not listening.
If 2/3 of Congress dude, listen to what I'm saying. 2/3 of Congress. Oh my God, this guy, dude. Listen to what I'm saying.
So 2/3 of Congress didn't override that Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, but you said they couldn't.
So you're wrong.